Welcome to the How Did We Get Here podcast, the show that allows inspiring women from all walks of life a place to tell their story. Follow along every fortnight as we chat about each woman's challenges, life lessons, and words of wisdom that they have picked up along the way. Everything that has led them to being right here and right now. I'm your host, Jess, and from wherever you are in the world, I hope the story you hear today makes you smile, laugh, and maybe even cry a little. I hope it inspires you and fills your cup up just a little bit more, because in this day and age, inspiration and stories are always worth sharing. So grab a coffee or a tea and settle in for today's episode. And welcome back to the How Did We Get Here podcast. Thank you all so much for joining in to today's episode. And for our latest episode, I am very, very excited to welcome our guest, Carly. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So my partner is the one who recommended that I reach out to you to get you onto the show. She knows how much this podcast means to me. And, you know, we obviously both are inspired by incredible women. And you were someone that she knows, like she has known of you for a while. So, yeah, I just had to shoot my shot. And I'm so glad you said yes. So thank you.
So funny. So two things in that. A, always shoot your shot, because anyone that you think might not be interested is probably always going to want to do stuff like this. I've previously had a podcast and I've been like stewing on it for months going, oh, I want to ask this person. And you ask them and they just say, sure, like it's nothing, right? And secondly, I am so shocked your partner even knows who I am, because I have just known of her for years, just in, you know, like the world is small, 6 degrees of separation type channels. And I'm always like, she's so cool. Like effortlessly cool. And so I'm just like, I can't even believe she knows who I
am. Look, I could talk about Emily forever. She's literally the most amazing person in the world, and I feel so honored that she's mine. Oh my God. Okay. But today is not about my girlfriend. Today is about you. So it's all about you. Okay, so I'm not sure if you've listened to or if you've watched any of the other episodes, but the way that I like to start everything off is sort of getting you to introduce yourself without saying what you do for work. So how would you summarize yourself or introduce yourself to someone who doesn't know you and doesn't know what you do for work?
Yeah, I think this is always such a fun question, because people always hide behind what they do, and they often because they simply just do not have an identity outside of what they do. And I love that people are passionate about what they do, but I'm a huge believer in there's so much more to us than just, you know, what we do in the hours of 9 to 5. And I always kind of, you know, in a jovial manner say that my pronouns are MILF and badass, and that's how I like to identify. And
I fucking love it.
You know, yes, it's crass, but I don't know. I just think that as a mother, a lot of people put their whole identity into being a mother, whereas I'm a mum and, you know, yes. I'm a lot of things. So, you know, how would I describe myself? I guess I'm certainly like a multifaceted human. I've always got lots of different things on the go. And if you spoke to me, you know, today, and then in 6 months' time, I've probably got something else that I'm doing and I've gone on another tangent. You know, I've raging ADHD in human design. I'm a manifesting generator. And so that is just such a, you know, volcanic combo of chaos, you know, and equally though, I'm very regimented and very structured and very disciplined. So I'm kind of this beautiful duality of chaos meets discipline. And I just like to try and give everything a red hot crack, you know, love my fitness. And it's not because I'm good at it, I just like it, and I just only believe in doing things that I enjoy and that I like doing. And so if I don't like something, it's out the window, I'm done. So I guess I'm someone who is here to just live life well and, you know, to leave a legacy and to just be someone who made a difference, which is, I guess, a bit of a blanket term, but just like had a fucking good time, you know, do no harm and have lots of fun and do all the things and give everything a red hot crack and give it your best and say yes to every opportunity. And like, I guess, that kind of just sums me up. I don't know. Like, I can't ever just put myself in a box. I'm a
One little
million.
box. Yep.
Yeah.
100%. I'm exactly the same as you. Like I just can't stay obviously physically in one place, but I need to have many things happening at once. I can't just do one thing at a time. I always like to sort of have all these new avenues, these new things happening, or something that's always remained constant. Like I'm like, okay, what's the next thing that I can do with this? So I love that description of yourself. And yet a MILF and a badass. Fuck yeah, I love that. That's so good. Okay, well, now that we sort of have a bit of an idea in terms of who you are as a person, as a human being, um, what do you do for work at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm in the military. I've been in the military for 19 years. And by trade, I'm a drone operator or UAV operator. I haven't flown in quite a long time. I run a desk job now, and that's because that's what suits me and my family and my, current situation with my family dynamics. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for the longest time. I've done lots of things sort of in between, had a bit of a break in service in between where I owned a business and traveled, had some children, then came back.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I do. I also have a business as well, mentoring women, doing retreats, events, etc., doing that sort of thing. Yeah, do a bit of public speaking as well when the opportunities arise, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just sort of a bit of everything as I've
Everything.
explained. But yeah, my
Yeah.
main job is military. Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, on the same tangent as that, so sort of going off in terms of how you were describing yourself and your qualities as a human, if you wouldn't mind taking us back sort of to your origin story in terms of significant moments, life events, things that have shaped your values as a human, and all of these milestone moments in your life that have led you to being where you are now.
Mm, yeah.
So give us your background story.
Yeah, give you the autobiography. So I am like Brisbane born and bred. I really have not strayed very far, and I was born about 800 years ago in Brisbane, and I was the oldest daughter. So when we talk about oldest daughter tendencies, I meet all of that criteria also.
To
Um,
a T.
I, had a pretty nuclear family growing up, mum, dad, three kids, and dad was the breadwinner, mum was the stay-at-home mum until we were all at school. And then, she worked her ass off to make sure we could then go to really good high schools. But yeah, like pretty nuclear. We really didn't go without. I wouldn't say we were rich. I wouldn't say we were poor. My parents just worked really hard to provide. And my brother was heavy on sport. I was a musician as well as doing sport. My sister was just rogue. And we just kind of did whatever, and my parents were really supportive, and their rule was always you need to give everything a go and give it a red hot crack, and then if you don't want to do it anymore, you don't have to. So we were never forced to, oh, you will be on the netball team or you will do debating. It was never like that. It was just a case of, oh, I want to try this sport this term. Okay, no worries. And then if you didn't want to do it anymore, no one's going to force you to do that. So I've really appreciated that growing up, and I think it's really sat well with my values of I only really want to do stuff that makes me happy. So yeah, I grew up as a musician. I played the flute and I was really good. And that was
That's
going to
so
be
cool.
yeah. We're
Yeah.
multifaceted here. That was always going to be my career. And I guess I didn't really know what that looked like as a career, but I just knew I wasn't going to do anything other than music. Like that was it. I worked my ass off and I auditioned for the Conservatorium of Music, UQ, QUT, all the possible universities that would potentially take me. And whilst I was good, I just wasn't the best. And flute is a popular instrument and lots of people are auditioning. It's not like, oboe where there's like two people in the world that play it. It's like flute is popular, everyone plays it. So it's like I was good, I just wasn't the best. There was just girls who were so much better or people who were so much better. So yeah, I didn't get in and I didn't have a plan B and I was like, shit. Okay.
What do I do
was
now?
not literally, I was just like, well, what do you do? And so this is a generation where you either went to uni or you got a trade. There was no, we run an online business,
In between.
we go and be a PT, we go and do a gap year. There was none of that. And there are a couple of boys that went up to the military back then, but it sort of wasn't really a encouraged career path, I suppose, from, your school guidance counselors and stuff. So yeah, I got a really shitty OP because all my efforts went into music. And so that didn't afford me many opportunities to get into uni courses that I might have been interested in, like teaching or anything like that. It just was too well, it was too high, which it needed to be low.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I just did a Bachelor of Arts for a year, and I tried to do a couple of music subjects in there thinking, oh, it's right, I'll try again. But I guess like my poor little heart was shattered, you know. I was like,
Oh,
well, they
you
don't
had
want
your
me.
heart set on getting into,
I really
yeah.
did. And I kind of lost the love for it because the goal and the passion and the drive wasn't there. I was sort of like, what am I working towards? So I never re-auditioned, and I ended up doing a uni degree that I only paid off last year, like 24 years later. And because my, motto with Hex was take it to the grave, whatever. I didn't care.
Absolutely. I'm still paying mine off.
Yeah, but, I don't recommend, like, actually try and, pay your debts off. But
Yep.
yeah, and I guess I just did a degree because that's just sort of what you did. It wasn't,
Yep.
go out and get a full-time job. That was never even something anyone would consider. So I did that, and then I ended up getting a job down on the Gold Coast and worked there for a year. And then we didn't have the internet at our house, and nobody really had laptops and iPhones weren't even a thing. So, I'd go off to the internet cafe and I'd check my emails every so often, and I'm checking my Hotmail and an ad comes up for the Army, the Edge, the part-time of your life. And I was like, oh, what's that about? Clicked on it. And then I sort of read this like, oh, tax-free pay, and you can like, do a hobby that you love and get paid for. And I was like, this sounds sick. Like, let's have a look at this. So I just sort of clicked through the motions, and next thing I've like got myself an interview, and I'm going in for a medical, and I'm doing all the things, and then it's like, cool, you're enlisting on this day. And yeah, all of a sudden I was in Army Reserves. And to be fair, like I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just thought, oh yeah, this will be fun. So I went and I started, and I loved it so much. And I went to Kapuka, and yeah, I was just like, what am I doing? Like, this is so cool. I love this. I don't want to go
wild.
I'm like, go back to my dumb corporate job that I hate, that my yearly salary is $31,000. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. It's shit. And so, yeah, I literally marched into, my chain of command when I got back, and I said, hey, can I do this full time? Like, what's going on? How do I do that? What's the administrative process? They're really supportive. But the job I was in at the time was a driver, and they said, like, you'll probably be really bored doing that. And not that it's a boring job. They just knew me and my personality probably wanted to do something that was a little bit different. And so I had a look at a couple of things and ended up choosing a job in signals. And the unit that I was posted to was an artillery unit and men only, because combat corps were only men back then. And as I was sort of signing on the dotted line to go full time, I got told that the Chief of Defence Force has signed off on women being allowed in combat corps, in artillery only to start with, and that if I wanted to come across, I would be the first. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'll just do the other one. And they were like, go home, sleep on it, come back. And I didn't really know what this meant. Like, I didn't really understand the weight of that and what, the trajectory that was going to create for my career, or, that I was going into this massive boys club, and I had no idea. And so I went home and I was like, oh, yeah, whatever, sure. How bad can it be? We'll do this cool new job, flying drones, and, who knows what opportunities will come up. And so I went back and I was like, yep, I'm in, signed on the dotted line. They're like, congratulations, you're now the first woman in a combat corps. You're the first woman to enlist into artillery, first woman to serve in a combat corps. So I was like, oh, cool.
That's amazing in itself. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. And so I just was like, oh, sweet. Like I truly didn't understand until I then went to
how old were you at that point?
About 22.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. And so you have to understand that, like, combat corps have been only men forever. You might have like female medics, female clerks, female, supply operators coming in here and there, but predominantly these roles are men only, and it is a boys club. Like, it is the boys. So straight up, I was getting a lot of, oh, this is no place for a woman. And, we'll see how long she lasts. And, oh, Barbie thinks she can join our boys club and blah, 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 blah. And, I was just like, aren't we just all here to do a job?
Yeah.
I don't get the issue. Like, if you're good at your job, what does it matter what's going on downstairs? Like,
yeah, exactly.
My mindset was just very logical, thinking, if you're good at your job, what does it matter? Right. Isn't it about the right?
And it's funny that the men were so emotional about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet you were more logical about it.
Yes, correct. And not everyone. There were certainly a lot of the boys who were just like, "Oh, cool, Carly's here now," and it didn't really phase anybody. Once had to go back to Kapuka to do basic training again, which I was happy with because I loved it. Because I'm weird. Some people say it's the worst time of their lives doing basic training. I loved it. And then from there, I went to School of Artillery, and that's when everything started to really hit. I walked into the mess, and 200 eyes turned around to look at me as, oh, that's her, that's the chick, that's the first female in artillery. And I'm like, oh, cool, go get my dinner. Literally just was still in the mindset of, oh, yeah, we're just here to do a job. It really doesn't matter. I had a lot of the boys who, I guess, were very careful about what they would say around me, because I think everybody was worried about getting in trouble, or they'd, gotten a talking to about, oh, just be appropriate, don't be crass, whatever. And then as soon as I started swearing in conversations, they were like, hang on, you can't swear. We're not allowed to swear. I was like, I knew you'd gotten a talking to. I'm like, it's fine. I have come into your world. You don't need to change. If I'm uncomfortable, I can walk away. I'm an adult. If there's conversations that I don't want to listen to, or things that you're discussing that I don't want to be privy to, I can walk away. And I did. There were many times where I just thought, so, but for the most part, I just was like, cool, I just wanted to fit in, and I just wanted to do my job. And that was always my ammo, was like, I'd just be really good at your job. Just be really, really good at your job. And I certainly came up against a lot of colorful treatment. Someone got hold of my phone number and was stalking me, and I literally would haul myself up in my room just trying to learn the ins and outs of my job, which came with a lot of sort of difficult mathematics and academics, and I'm not a mathematics brain at all. So I was really like in my room just studying hard, and people are saying, oh, she's out doing this, and she's out doing this person and this thing, and da da da. I'm like, guys, I'm literally crying in my room over trigonometry. Like,
I'm trying to study here, guys. Like, please.
I'm fucking devastated about algebra. Like, I'm not doing anybody or anything other than fucking E equals MC.
these equations that are just so hard.
And so, that got a little bit scary for a while. That all got dealt with. And then after a while, it just kind of became not really a big deal. It was like, cool, there's chicks here now. I think I did a pretty good job of just paving the way as someone who was like, I just want to get on with it. I just want to do my job. I just want to do my job well. I'm not here to faff around. Sure, I had moments where, I would get emotional, and yes, I would cry, or I would, something would happen, and yes, I would cry, and oh yeah, chick's crying, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, that's my emotional reaction. Like, some people get angry and punch walls.
Punch a hole in a wall,
and some people cry, or some people retreat into silence, or everyone handles things differently. Mine is that I will cry if I feel overwhelmed, or whatever's going on. So I guess after a while, it just wasn't really too much of a big deal. And then probably, I think it was maybe another year or so, like 9 months or a year before then, more women started to come through, like trickle feeding through. And so I was probably on my own there for about a year, and then other women started to come through. So then it just sort of became the norm.
Yeah.
Now, like, a million years later, it's no one really knows any different. It's just cool. We have women doing this now. So that was like a pretty pivotal moment in time for me, where, I had to really, I guess I felt like I had to fight for my, I don't know if status is the right word, but I really had to fight to, prove my worth all the time. And I think that really set a precedence for me for the rest of my life, of feeling like I really had to prove my worth for the continuation of literally everything that I did. But as I said, my mantra was always just be really good at your job. And so that was what I did. I just focused on always being really fit and healthy, doing the best I could to be really good at my job, and just trying really hard all the time to do better all the time. And I certainly wasn't perfect. I wasn't always, a good leader. I wasn't always a good colleague. I wasn't always a good peer, but I don't think anybody is. I think everybody has their moments where, they fall apart, and then other times where they're absolutely thriving and killing it. So it's very fortunate to be selected to go on deployment to Afghanistan in 2009, and then again in 2013. Whoa. So again, really pivotal moments in time, and so grateful for that, because those types of operational deployments just don't exist anymore. The world just operates differently now, and that's not a thing. Very, very fortunate to have that experience. And I would say it's probably like, it's up there with such a huge career highlight for me, is, not only serving my country, but, that was the first time I'd ever been overseas in my life as well. And all of a sudden, you're your boots are literally in the sand, and it's just like, wow, I'm so far away from home right now and so far away from normal life things. And the weird thing is life just goes on without you when you get home. And so everyone just goes on and does all the same things and keeps at it. And then, you get home and you're like, okay, so what's happening? And everyone's like, oh, we've just been doing life,
It's just the same.
You're
Yeah.
completely changed and evolved person that's seen these crazy things and seen this, crazy part of the world. And you're like, wow, I have this expanded mind. And everyone's just like, oh, cool. We're just living our life and doing things. And so then after my second deployment, I came home and posted down to Victoria for a little while. And then I had in between all of that, I've been married and divorced. And then I was with a new partner, and he was in the military as well. And he wanted to go overseas and travel. And I was like, oh, well, but we like have this job, what are we going to do? And he's like, well, I'm going to get out, do you want to come too?
Oh.
At that point in time, I thought I'd be in the army forever and ever and ever. And, was really focused on, my career and, climbing the ranks and going all the way to the top. And, having career success. And then, but when I got home from that second deployment, I just had kind of lost my love for it a little bit. And I felt just indifferent about things. And I guess, so we're talking 2013. This is, I guess, Instagram existed, but not in the way it does now. And what I know now that I didn't realize back then was I was just burnt out, but nobody was calling it burnout, and nobody would ever admit to the fact that they were burnt out back then, because it was just taboo to talk about things like that. So, I probably just needed a break for a little bit, but I didn't know that at the time. So I did. I got out completely, and we went traveling, and we just sold everything we owned and bought a one-way ticket to Iceland. And we went road tripping around Iceland for about 3 weeks, and we were going to stay in Europe the whole time, but we were like, oh, this is cold and expensive. Let's go to Africa. He'd previously been to Africa and loved it. So we went to France one day, and then like 48 hours later, we're in Nairobi, and spent 8 weeks doing an overland trip through Africa. And then we just loved it so much. When we got to Cape Town in South Africa, we hired a vehicle and went back up through Namibia and Botswana and did the rooftop camping thing. And then we found a campsite in the north of Namibia that we really, really loved. And we just said to them, if we volunteer for you, can we stay? Can we do some projects around here? Can we work for you and just have our board and like our accommodation and food covered? And they were like, yeah, we got heaps of stuff you guys can do. So we took our vehicle back, caught a bus back up, and stayed there for a few months. It's really hard to get your visa renewed over there because they think you're stealing the jobs of a local person, even though
volunteer.
They still see it as, we could maybe get paid for that. So we stayed for as long as our visas would allow for a few months. And honestly, like, I feel like if we could have like had our visas renewed, we'd probably still be there all this time later.
Wow.
So that was awesome. And then came home for a little bit and just sorted out some life stuff, and then went back again and ended up going back through Southeast Asia, lived at a Muay Thai camp for a bit in Thailand.
What the hell?
Yeah. And then we're in Thailand, and we were like, we want to go and see the Northern Lights again. And the season was about to end because they go from, having a polar night, which is it's nighttime all the time, to then midnight sun, where it's sunlight all the time. So it's like you won't see the Northern Lights in summer, basically. So we're like, we've kind of got to go now if we want to do that. So then like 48 hours later, we're in Norway. And so it just would bounce around. And so we ended up picking up some more volunteer work at a dog sled farm there, and dog sled farm and a dairy farm. So we would kind of like milk cows, go and hang out with the dogs, see the Northern Lights at night. And we just did that for ages, and it was the best.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then we decided that we would come home, and came home through the Caribbean and spent some time in Barbados and a couple of other countries through there. And then came home, and I just got a part-time job working for a fitness RTO where they taught, Cert 3 and 4 in fitness. And my partner at the time wanted to open a business. And I was like, well, I can keep us afloat. Why don't you work on that? So he was doing that for a bit, sorting out what he wanted to do. He's like, I want to open a gym, looked at a couple of, F45s, jets, that sort of thing. And he's like, no, I want to start my own brand. Like, I want to be able to do whatever I want to do. And every time he would give me a commercial property, they were just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we had no clients. It wasn't like we were taking clients from, a garage gym into something like, big.
You'd literally start from nothing.
yeah, and no business knowledge either. So we really were just making it up as we went. And anyway, so we found a commercial property, secured the lease, started setting it all up, and we started wanting to work with veterans. And then we realized that veterans have a lot of resources available to them anyway. They don't necessarily want to come to a specific gym. Nobody's looking after people from the other side, which was applicants. And so we then pivoted entirely to being a gym for military applicants, and then later on military and police applicants. And we ran that for 7 years very, very successfully. It was the only gym of its kind in Australia. There were plenty of people doing some online stuff here and there, and we also had an online component. But yeah, it was very niche.
Is that in Brisbane? Was that in Brisbane?
Yeah, it was. So we unfortunately in 2022 got taken out by the floods in Brisbane, and we just couldn't keep going and couldn't reopen. The damage was too extensive. And we had online, which at the time we weren't going to do at the start. So like, no, we've got the gym, that's enough. But we had people saying, oh, I wish you'd open a gym in Melbourne. I wish you'd open a gym in Perth. We should open a gym in Newcastle. And we were like, well, we're only 2 people, you know. And by this stage,
we don't have the facilities to be able to do that.
Yeah, we started to think about having kids. And I said, look, I think we should look at online. I don't know how to do it. And so I did a course to learn how to do it, because back then it was not as like, you know, now anyone can do it, but there wasn't really a system for how to do it back then. And so I have this photo of me where I'm literally, because we were living in the gym as well in the office, because we couldn't afford commercial rent and residential rent at once. So we were like, well, let's just do the gym for 6 months and save some money while we, you know, build this business up. And I was pregnant, and which was intentional. And I have this picture of me sitting on the laptop crying because I'm so unwell, like lying in bed in our office, and I'm surrounded by like Macca's bags and, you know, Vegemite and bacon and cheese rolls. And I'm just like trying anything I can to sort of like suppress my nausea because I was so unwell. But I just powered through, you know. I was like, no, this online thing's going to be worth it. And I powered through, and I launched that with so many leads, so many people ready to sign up. And I literally like sold it out straight up. There were so many people that wanted to work with us online. And then the online grew very quickly. And it was clearly like a service that was really, really needed within the military applicant space. And it ended up serving us really well in 2020 when gyms just were continuously shut down all the time. We had the systems to pick people over.
Was that over COVID as well?
Yeah. So because gyms were always the first to get shut down, we were like, cool, everyone just pivot to online, and then we'd pivot people back to in person again. But then we always, because so many people were being made redundant, they were choosing military and police as a viable option for jobs as well. So we were always having so many people joining, and it just grew, and it grew and grew and grew. And then, we got to 2022, and I had 2 kids by this point, and we got taken out by the flood, and it just wasn't going to work to try and reopen. The damage was too extensive, and the cost to reopen was just far more than we were prepared to take on. And so we just pivoted to being fully online. And a few months after that, I decided that I think I want to go and get a part-time job, just because I didn't like the idea of being home all the time and working from home constantly. I wanted to kind of get out and about a little bit more. And so I just put a post on LinkedIn, which I'm so shit at. I hate LinkedIn. This whole I'm thrilled to announce that. So shut up. Like, it's just, I can't handle it. But I use it when I need to, right? Whereas some people like, for some people, LinkedIn is like their Instagram or their TikTok. They're like obsessed and they put stuff on there every day. I look at it and I'm like, oh, shut up.
Cringe.
It's not my stuff. I understand it. But so I was like, cool, I need a job. LinkedIn's probably the place I got to go. And I was like, cool, I've got all these weird skills. Does anyone want to hire me? And I had a friend who her husband was in the military, and I knew them. I'd known them for years. I went to school with her, and she called me and she's like, her husband will take you on. He needs someone with your skills. And I was like, oh, okay. So I called him, and he was like, yeah, absolutely. I need someone with your skills and your knowledge. I was going to put an ad up anyway. And I'm like, oh, if I saw it, I probably would have responded. So we've saved ourselves a bulk of admin. And so pretty much, like within a month, I was back serving in Army Reserves again. And then later that year, my kid's dad and I separated, and I got to a point where I'm like, cool, I need full-time work now. And so I had sort of said to them, with Army Reserves, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to work here in the same capacity. I'm going to have to get a full-time job. I might only be able to do like 1 day a week or, a couple of nights or whatever. And they were like, well, why don't we just put you on a full-time contract here, which is a service option now to go year to year. Your job isn't guaranteed every year, but there is a service option to be able to do that. So they said, we've got a spare position here. Why don't we just put you in that? And I was like, cowabunga, let's go.
Sweet. Yeah.
That works really well. And I've been back in full time for 3 years now. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And when I had the gym, I guess I was like mentoring people all the time. I was running events, just inadvertently mentoring a lot of the girls. And it wasn't until I'd separated from my ex-partner that I, just in a doom scroll, saw that like the coaching industry was a thing, for, self-development. And I was like, wow, people get paid for this? What do you mean? I've been giving it away for free for years over here. Like, I can't believe people get paid and get paid really well to do this. And I just was like, wow, that's crazy. And so I started to do a few bits and pieces as a participant because I was like, yeah, I'm at rock bottom. Like my life has absolutely fallen apart. I'm going to, go to an event here and maybe do a mastermind here or, do a couple of things here. And yeah, that kind of just opened up a window of opportunity for me to, I guess, work on myself.
That space.
Yeah. But also see like how the space worked. And so within sort of like 6 or so months, I just was like, I could do this. I have been doing this for years. So I just had, I guess, like a bit of a slow, soft launch, whatever people say. And I just started, like mentoring and taking on some clients. And I've run a couple of programs and stuff over the years. And it's just grown. And I just ran an event on the weekend that was like the 10th event that I've ever run. I've got a bunch of one-on-one clients. I run programs throughout the year and I have got retreats later this year as well. So like I just have sort of created this new business for myself as well because I just don't love the idea of only having one stream of income anymore because we have one stream of income with the gym. And when that was taken away, it was like, well, shit, what do we do now? So make sure, especially as the sole income earner in my home, that I've got multiple streams of income. And I also love it. Like I also love doing that because I've got the super masculine side of being in the army, but then I've also got, I guess I'm still masculine in a form of leadership in the way that I do my business, but I'm working with women only. And I love that, and that's just, I feel like that's what I was put on earth to do, was to really, I guess, show
support
other women
and guide,
and show them how good it gets to be. So I guess,
absolutely.
That's kind of my, not a short story, but that's kind of.
Holy moly. I don't think I've ever sat that quiet in an interview with anyone on my podcast for that long. Like I was just so enthralled in listening to you talk about everything that you have lived, everything that you've done. Like what the fuck? Wow.
It's a bit
like I just, like my mind is even blown. Like I even just want to go back and talk a little bit more about your travels. Like I that was just so niche in terms of like what you were able to do. Like what was probably the most rewarding lessons and things that you had learnt doing volunteer work, especially in like Africa and things like that? So what was some sort of pivotal moments for you during that time? Because that is so intriguing to me, and I can just imagine that was such a life-changing experience for you. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, and like if I had an opportunity to go back and live in Africa again today, like I would. I'd take my whole family and go. And my kid's dad is, probably loves Africa even more than I do. So it's sort of like, it's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. If anyone's listening and they've been to Africa, they'll just be sitting there going, yeah, I get it. But it just feels like home, and it changes you forever. And so we were doing volunteering, not in any sort of like volunteering program or anything like that, but we just created our own work. So they had a tree rejuvenation project that they had going in the local village where a lot of the vegetation had kind of been destroyed, and so they were wanting to regenerate it basically. And so every woman, because they wanted to give the women the income, every woman in the local village had I think 100 trees in their like little precinct, and they had to water them, they had to keep them alive, they had to nurture them. And every month, for every tree that was kind of growing and still standing, they would get, basically it was like 10 Namibian dollars. Oh, I'm going to butcher that.
Per
That's probably,
tree.
it was basically the equivalent of like $1 per tree
Yeah.
per month. So to them, that's like crazy money. But this is for the
Wow.
women to have their own income. So the men would go off and work and do their own thing, and this was to give the women independence. And so we did that. I also got tasked with creating a organic veggie garden that would sustain the kitchen of the camp that we were in. I knew
Oh my
nothing.
God.
Everything that I needed, and companion planting and all this sort of stuff I didn't know anything about, but I didn't create it. I would just facilitate it, and then the guys that worked for the camp, they would not work for me, but they would be that would be their job. It was to
Yeah.
maintain the veggie garden, and they would get really excited to come and tell me, hey, we planted this, or hey, like the carrots are sprouting, and I get so excited about everything that we'd all just be really excited about the carrots.
Oh,
Yes, that was really fun. And then,
that's so beautiful.
and here in a veggie garden, you have to, make sure like the birds don't get it and the grubs don't get it. Over there, you have to hippo proof it because we're literally on the river. So we had to hippo proof our veggie garden.
What
Yeah.
the fuck? How do you hippo proof a veggie garden? That's a tongue twister.
Look, turns out we weren't very good at it. And this is, sentences you never think you would say in your life. I have to hippo proof the veggie garden. But, that's just what you do. They put up fencing and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so there was that. And then no one was really running the bar properly. And my ex-partner had previously run the bar for our army unit. Every unit sort of has their own little, social club bar thing. And so he's like, oh, I got you. I know how to run this. So he would take care of that and, be like all the ordering and the inventory and budgeting and all that sort of stuff. So we kind of just had a few jobs around that we would do. And I think for me, one of the biggest things that I learned over there and that became something that I felt was really important was that white people, as in white Afrikaans people, don't treat black people very well over there. And that's a hangover from the apartheid era. And
Wow.
I think it's going to take a lot of generations for that to weed out. It is getting better, but black people still look to white people as like, you're my master. And they would do the same with me and my ex-partner. And we would be like, we just volunteer him, and like, you guys get paid, you're the actual employees, like we're nobodies, like, but they would still look at us like we were the boss, and we were, yes master, no master, and would call us sir and ma'am and be like scared of us almost. And it took me a while to kind of realize what was going on, because in my head I'm like, oh, we're just volunteers, like we're nobodies, like you guys are the important ones, you guys are the guys that do the work. And so we just treated them like they were our friends, and we just treated them like we were all equal, and we were all just equal. And every lunchtime they would go out and play volleyball, and my ex-partner would go out and join them and play, and they loved it because he's like 6'4", and they just thought he was this big giant, and they just thought it was so cool. Like, I can't believe he's out playing volleyball with us,
Oh my God.
we were just like, what do you mean, and so for me that became really special in the village when we would do the tree project with the women, where one of the women said to one of the guys that was with us to interpret, he said, can you please tell her thank you for being nice to us? And I was just like, what does she mean? Why is she saying that? Why wouldn't I be nice? And they said they're just not used to white people being kind to them. And I was just like,
oh, I just got goosebumps.
No. To me, it was like, why, like, what do you mean? Of course. Like, why wouldn't I, And so to me, I guess that became really special in a way that I could show them that there's a better way to do things. There's always a better way to do things. And the way that, other people have treated them is not representative of every single person out there, and
it's not the minority is not a representation of the majority, and that I think that's definitely such a beautiful legacy that you would have definitely left there for those people.
Yeah, I hope so. And it was really special. When some of them had small babies, and they'd let you nurse the babies, and they would just trust you with that, and they would come and just want to talk to you and want to hang out, and sometimes we'd go and play soccer with the kids. And I don't know, I think just for me it was a case of actually showing them just what a good human gets to look like, because they were so used to tourists coming in and almost treating them like they were, animals in a zoo, or like, it's on Big Brother where everyone's watching them, through the glass window. And it's like, they're all humans, and I'm so big on treating everybody like a human first. Even in my job, to me, it doesn't really matter what rank you have. I'll always be respectful, but we are all humans first. You strip away the rank, we're all the same. You strip away, however much money someone has, where they're from, the color of their skin, we are all humans first. And so I think for me in Africa, like I said, particularly with the women, it was a case of we're hopefully a safe place for you, as in both of us, and for them even having, like a man treat them nicely and be kind to them
absolutely
nicely was so foreign. And so I think for me, being able to show them that, not everybody is not nice. There are people out there that actually are just kind and nice. And I don't know, they just
want to
our
do
friends.
good in the world.
And they became our friends. And I don't know, I think that was just really special. So not like your typical volunteering, story, but for me, that was really special.
Do you still have contact with anyone from Africa, like from your time over there?
Sort of, like definitely no one from the village, because they were seriously rocking around with Nokia 3310s, like actual, like, well, they don't have the facility to charge phone, so they would charge them at work. So and there's no reception, so having a smartphone makes no sense. They might now. I don't know if they've got Wi-Fi in the village now, but no. Some of the people we used to work with, sort of, and some of the people that we traveled with, sort of, but not anyone from the villages or anything like that, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, still, wow, that's incredible. And then sort of the same thing when you guys went to the Northern Lights as well. So what was probably the biggest thing that you sort of took away from that experience in terms of living there for a while?
So we actually went to a lodge where we went to do the same thing, to kind of volunteer and work in place of accommodation and food. And the guy that we're working for was just like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just a bit of a wanker. And we were just like,
what the fuck?
We would be like asking for work and asking for jobs to do. But he was an older guy, and he would just like run around and do everything himself, be like, oh, just do it myself. But then would say, what have you been doing? And what have you been doing? And we're like,
the fuck?
We're waiting for you to tell us what you needed us to do. We just tried to keep ourselves busy finding things to do anyway. And so he was just being a bit of a pain in the ass. And so we had met a local family who lived, I don't know, maybe a kilometre down the road, and they had the dairy farm and did the dog sledding. And so we had spoken to them and were like, we're going to run away.
Can we come and live with you?
We're like, can we come bunk in with you? We don't care if we sleep on the couch. Like, can we come in? And they did competitive dog mushing, so dog sledding, and they would go all in Finland, Lapland areas, and they would travel all the time. And they were like, well, we're about to go away for a week. There's room to stay. You just have to help the guys, in the dairy farm. We're like, sweet, happy to do whatever. So we called and we're like, come and get us now. So they came and got us. We like waited out on the road.
Did they smuggle you out?
Literally, quite literally. And we like, oh my God, going, we just left. And then they found out later on, because they knew the owner of the lodge, and everyone kind of knew everyone in the area. But we were just like, fuck this, we're going to go do something cooler. And so, we stayed there, worked on the dairy farm, and, we're literally like not hand milking cows. They had machines, but every morning we would come out and there'd be new calves that had been born. And
oh my God,
because it's like they're dairy cows. So if they're female cows, they're literally taken away straight away, which is sad, right? It's not nice, but it's just the way of the world, right?
Oh, it is. Yeah.
So they would take them away, they'd be bottle fed straight away. And like as they grew bigger, they would go into like different pens until they were at a point where it was like, cool, they're ready to be milked. And so, and then the bulls would, they'd all be kept separate. And then in the springtime, they'd all be allowed out, because it was like snow in the winter. They'd be allowed out. That's where they'd all breed. Then they'd come back in the winter, have all their babies. So like we would just come in the morning and we'd be like, oh, this is like this tiny baby. And it'd just be sitting there, and you're just like, how old are you? When were you born? Like, it's so crazy. Yeah. So I think, again, like I would never do that in Australia, such a crazy time in life. And, I just remember sitting there thinking like, some people really work fucking hard for their money,
Mm,
And it's not like, I don't know. I don't want to like bash any career
yeah,
options or
no,
anything. It's like some people are able to earn a lot of money really easily, right? There's a lot of like,
yeah, doing
content
fuck all.
jobs and influencers and blah blah blah. Like even like my coaching business is easy money. I
Mm,
don't have to work hard for it. I just have to like do
mm,
good. Whereas these guys are like laborious activity all day, because once the cows were milked, then it was out doing maintenance, and they also had a million dogs that needed to be fed and exercise and walked, and all this sort of stuff. And so it was like, wow, these guys are just like on it, hard labor all day, and then it didn't stop, and then the cows had to be milked at 9, and they wouldn't sort of wrap up work until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night by the time they'd milked all the cows and put everyone away and da 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 da. And I just think like, you just really get to check your privilege in places like that, like that,
I was gonna
like
say that definitely would have put
as
your
well.
perspective.
Yeah, and they didn't understand how we were able to be over there and not work, and we had just like saved up a lot of money and had sold everything and pulled our savings together, and were just living frugally, basically. That's why we were
Mm,
volunteering, and we weren't earning any money, but we weren't spending it either. And yeah, I think
mm,
you just get to really check your privilege and how lucky you are, and that no matter what job you have, or where you live, or whatever, like I mean, like back in Australia, like I'm so privileged and I'm so lucky to have the opportunities that I have and the things that I have. And it wasn't like the family in Norway were hard done by. Like they chose to do that. It wasn't
yeah.
like they were, suffering or anything like that. It was just, wow, they
Mm,
work really fucking hard for their money, and I fucking sit at a desk and do typing all day and earn really good money. Like it's just,
yeah.
everyone's so different. And yeah, I think you just really get to see how privileged you are. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think as well, it's got a lot to do with sort of like the culture in Europe and just that part of the world as well, compared to, let's say, like where we are in terms of Australia, city sort of life in general. And I think, yeah, I sort of felt the same way. Like I've only ever been to Europe once, and I went back to Greece, where my family's from. And yeah, exactly the same thing. You're just like, this is how everyone makes their money there.
Yeah.
Like it's physical, it's on the
Mm.
land, it's like in the village. And again, 100%, it makes you appreciate the way that we live. But it's
Mm.
also like, I think it's very important to sort of experience that and learn that it could be worse, not in a bad way, but it's like it could be harder. So be grateful for what you have right now and here.
And I always laugh. No, I shouldn't say that. I don't laugh. I just kind of roll my eyes a little bit when you have
Mm,
like an influencer or someone going, being an influencer is a really hard job. I'm like, yeah, you probably do a lot and work hard and work long hours and whatever, but like it's not physical labor, and there's a difference between the two. And no one's invalidating that you don't work hard, or if
mm,
you're a corporate worker, like I literally have a desk job now. I'm typing, doing emails and spreadsheets. That's not hard,
no.
am
Yeah.
busy for long hours, but it's not hard labor. And there's just a difference, and
Mm,
it's not like, oh, one's more superior to the other or whatever. It's
yeah.
like actually just, check your what hard actually means. Yeah.
Absolutely, definitely. Oh my goodness, far out. That's so. I feel like you've lived a million lives in one. Like this is crazy.
Yeah. And
That's
that's the feedback I usually get from people is like, wow, it's like you've lived 100 lives. And yeah. And even as I've told this story to you, it's like, oh, I've talked about things that I haven't spoken about, either with friends or on other podcasts, or, and other stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, I forget bits and pieces that have happened. And it's like,
mm,
I'll have friends that'll listen to this and be like, oh, I didn't know that about you. you know?
yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
so cool. That's amazing. Well, in terms of sort of, because you sort of touched on it a little bit before, but what do you think your main purpose is now?
Yeah, I think I always say that like my purpose is to show other women how good it gets to be, show other people how good it gets to be, because I think that so many people get so caught up in, their struggle, and their struggle is all they know, and their struggle is what they identify as, and, what happened to them, or what, bad experiences they've had, or, whether it's been trauma, and it's not invalidating anything that anybody's been through, but people hold on to that, whereas there's so much more out there for you. And I think people
On the
forget
other side of that.
yeah, you're actually allowed to go forth and have a really good life and have fun. And so many women in particular forget that they're allowed to have fun. And I'm the queen
Mm.
of like wanting to go out and have fun and making like mundane stuff really fun and just doing random shit to make it fun. And for me, it's wanting to show women how good it gets to be and reminding them that just because this happened doesn't mean you don't deserve this. Like you deserve so much more, but you have to be the one to take the action and go and get it. And so I really feel like that's my purpose, is to show women how good it gets to be.
And I think it's also that you allow yourself to fully experience that joy of being on the other side. Like
Mm.
you're allowed to, like you said, you deserve to experience this and have this joy and, you know, live an incredible life even after something extremely traumatic has happened to you. And I think
Yeah.
that's very powerful in terms of your role in these women's lives. Like
Mm.
that's a huge responsibility on your
Yeah.
part as well. But I
And
think
I
anyone less, I'm not diminishing anybody, but I'm just saying anyone who didn't have the personality that you have and the type of person that you are, I don't think anybody else but you could do something like that.
Yeah. And, I try to see myself as I'm the example, the role model, the evidence that I needed when I was in the absolute pits of rock bottom. Like when I was trying to climb out from under the rubble, in particularly through my separation, like
Mm.
that was a bad time. And it wasn't, because there was anything shocking happening. It was just, wow, our whole life is falling apart. And this is
Yeah.
not what nobody goes into having children thinking, wow, I can't wait to raise them on
By
my own
myself. Yeah.
and not see them for half the time. Like nobody goes
Mm.
into it thinking that's what is going to happen. And then, it happens and you're like, wow, this sucks. All of a sudden
Yeah.
I'm the only income earner in my home. I'm financially responsible for everyone and everything, all the jobs in the house are all mine, all the everything, I'm solely responsible for these kids. And I've now got to co-parent with someone who I don't actually want to be in a relationship with anymore, and that's
Yeah.
he would say the same thing. It's like the whole point of breaking up is that you don't want to have to be around each other anymore, but you have to. And so,
Because you have
there's
kids. Yeah.
there's going through that and navigating that and what your new normal looks like and trying to heal and grieve yourself, but still having to show up for these kids and still having to show up to work and put food on the table and all this stuff. And I needed to be able to look into the future at another woman and go, it's actually going to be okay.
Mm.
And I didn't necessarily have examples of that. And I really hope that for so many women out there that are, going through the same thing, and it happens all the time. I have women message me all the time saying, oh my God, me and my husband or me and my partner have just broken up and I see you and it gives me hope that everything will be okay. And so, I try to be the evidence that, you will land on your feet and everything will work out, and it won't always be easy and it won't always be fun and amazing and glorious, but you will land on your feet and you will figure shit out. And next thing you'll have a collection of Ryobi fucking drills, and you'll know how to mow the yard, and you'll be fixing stuff in the house, and you'll be doing all the boy jobs and the girl jobs and all the everything jobs, and you'll just figure it out and you'll be fine. And so for me, it's really important to, and it's not about a performance. Like I'm not sitting here putting on a performance being like, oh my God, guys, look how good it gets to be. It's like, this is
Yeah.
literally living my life. I'm literally just here living my life doing what I do. And I just hope that so many women see that and know that, okay, cool, I'm going to be fine. I've just got to like go through it.
The pit first. Yeah.
Literally like just go right through it and then I'll come out the other side. And,
But
and,
it's
and the,
also like you didn't just become like this. Like it wasn't just like a overnight sort of thing. Like you had to do the work in order to get to this point. And I think that's where a lot of women will definitely resonate with you, because they're like, I'm in this shit part right now. How do I get to be you? How do I get to be my version of you? It's like you just got to go through the shit first.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's honestly such a it's a beautiful path of resilience. And so many people will, say to me, oh my God, you're so resilient. How did you become so resilient? It's like you don't just decide one day I'm going to be resilient. You are resilient. You might
Yeah.
not feel it. And resilience isn't just, oh, I went through a hard thing and now I'm okay. It's like I went through it and I learned from it and I applied those lessons, and then I grew, and then I did it for the next shitty thing that happened, and I just did it for the next shitty thing. And it's, it's the resilience then becomes part of the beautiful reinvention of, I'm like,
Yeah.
go, oh, I'm me 2.0, I'm me fucking 11.0. You know, like I say, like this is my third act. You know, I had my, you know, childhood and, you know, teenage years, and then I was like my train wreck 20s and, you know, 30s was a bit all over the shop. And now I'm in my 40s. I'm like, oh, this is the third act. Like this is the beautiful reinvention, the rebuilding of identity that you get to move into now. And that's my legacy. Like that's what I want women to see, that, oh, it's not over. Like we are literally on track and we're getting started and it gets better and it's like, you'll be okay. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. That's the only thing I can say to that, because yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. That is just so incredible. Like, you're amazing. I just think you are just the most badass woman ever. All right, well, just to wrap up our episode, because it is getting a little bit close to the time, there's 2 questions that I always like to finish each of my episodes up with. So if you could list a handful of things, just like little everyday things that bring you the most joy, like outside of work, outside of gym, like just little moments or little things that just bring you the most joy, what would they be?
Yeah, so easy. So my number one is is licking the chocolate off my cappuccino lid.
Yeah.
Every
Yum.
morning, without fail, I will literally like open my cappuccino lid, and it is like a ceremonious moment for me where if I've had the chaos of school drop off, or, you know, if I don't have the kids, it's just like, oh, you know, the early morning, whatever. And it's like getting my coffee is like such a ceremonious social act for me, because, you know, I'll go and to my barista and whatever. And then, you know, I open the lid and I'm like, oh, and you just stop in the moment. Nothing else matters in that moment. You just lick the lid and you lick the chocolate, you put it back on, you go about your day. And to me, like, that's honestly like the best part of my morning.
Absolutely.
I've started to build a little bit of a cult following of people who like to do that now, which is, you know,
that's great.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's just the simple things. Like I live right by the water here in Brizzy. And so for me, it's like I always want to have like a touch point, not necessarily going in the water, but I want to be by the water. So, you know, either I'll go for a walk or I'll at least like drive past her on my way to work. And it's just, I just want to see the water and just stop and soak it in. And whether it's, you know, I get out and I'm going for a walk and I'm walking in the sun, it's like I just love being able to appreciate where I live, because for me, I'm able to just see like, wow, this is what I've created for myself. Like I live in this cool part of town, in this beautiful spot, and I'm going to soak it all in because it's the fucking best. And to me, I could never live in a city where I was landlocked. I have to sort of be close to the water, and that's like, okay, I can breathe, you know? So yeah, that brings me a lot of joy.
That's so good. Anything else off the top of your head?
I think I'm a fiend for trash TV as well. So I generally
all right.
I'm like the worst like self-development conscious person ever, because I like to do a lot of, so, you know, I just love a bit of trash TV at night. That's my wind down. To me, that signifies, yep, the hard work is done for the day, you know, and whatever I'm watching at the time is kind of like, that's my thing. That just honestly, just being able to like lie on the couch and watch some TV, like, and I'm talking trash. Like I rewatch the same shows all the time because I don't want to have to think. You know, I'm fluent in Grey's Anatomy. I've watched that many times. I'm currently going through Superstore for the 3rd time, and that's it. Like I'll lie there at the end of the night and just be like, oh,
this is great. This is so good. Yeah.
Because, you know, back in the day when I was in the pits of my separation, it used to be pouring a wine, and then it would be a bottle, and then it would be, and that would be every night until I'd turned into this like piece of shit. And that would be my like, you know, signifying that hard work is done. So it's like, no, I'm going to replace that with something that's still, you know, not exactly the greatest habit in the world, but it's healthier. And so to me,
it's
that's
calming,
like,
and it like you can switch off your brain because it's just trash TV.
Yeah, and like particularly as a mum, when you're just like go, and you're thinking for 3 people, and you like got all these jobs to do before you can sit down, having that moment of, oh, okay, we're done. And I wear my shoes all day. So like even if I work from home, I need to like get dressed for the day and put shoes on, and I don't take my shoes off at night until the work's done, because to me taking my shoes off signifies the work is done. The day. Over. So it could be 9 o'clock at night and I'm still going around packing school bags and doing stuff. And so for me, it's like, oh, okay, sit down, take my shoes off. Oh, the work is done, you know, have a shower, whatever. Oh, watch trash TV. The day is done, you know, yeah, that's my wind down point. So yeah, I'm a bit weird like that.
No, that makes so much sense. Like 100%. I love that. That's so good. I always try and make, because Em and I are still long distance for now. We always try and make a point that we sit down and we FaceTime and we watch like either a movie or a show together at least like once or twice a week.
Love that.
So yeah, that's definitely like our downtime as well. Yeah, and you've pretty much listed everything that I would also say brings me joy. Coffee is my number one, always, always will be to the day I die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, my last question and my favorite question that I love to ask my guests is, if you were to give one piece of advice to 8-year-old you now, what would that be?
I love this question. And my daughter is 7. She'll be turning 8 in a couple of months. So it really feels poetic as well.
Yeah. What would you tell her?
I think, like, for me in particular, and also I see it in her, is to just stay weird and don't try and suppress your personality. Don't try and suppress your personality. Don't try and suppress who you are to satiate the needs of others to make them feel more comfortable. Stay weird, be exactly who you are, because the world needs more of what you've got. And if you suppress that, then you are robbing the world of an opportunity to see this funny, cool, amazing, fun version of you. And somebody else out there needs what you've got. And if you hold that back and you don't let the world have that, you are robbing everybody else of the opportunity to learn from you. And she'll come home from school sometimes and say, oh, I got in trouble today from, this person, like just another kid, because they say that I talk too much, or, someone said I told a joke today and I shouldn't be telling a joke. And, and I'll say to her, like, oh, well, that, how disappointing that they're just so boring, or
Yeah, I was going to say, well, they probably have no sense of humor.
yeah, she had someone say, like, oh, you talk too much. And I was like, fuck, that was always my, you are too much and you talk too much. And, I said to her, now next time somebody says that, you turn around and you say, you're welcome. And so she thinks that's the funniest thing now. And so, someone's like, oh, you laugh too much, you talk too much. She's like, oh, you're welcome. And she just thinks that's really funny now. So that's my, semi-toxic reframe, is like, who cares? Tell them to walk away if they don't like it. They don't actually have to be in your proximity if they don't like it. And I guess for me, I grew up being told, you're too much, you talk too much, you laugh too loud, you blah, 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 all these things. And it's like, sorry for having a personality, and that has crept into adult life a lot as well. And particularly since being in self-development, I've had instances where people are like, oh, your sense of humor isn't, necessary here. And not everything needs to have a joke attached to it. And, sometimes
that's what I'd say to someone like that.
Yeah, we're trying to be serious and you're trying to make everything lighthearted. And I'm like, oh, fucking sorry that you are boring and I am fun, and now I see it as my gift. It's like, you don't have to be around me. You don't have to be in my proximity. And those who enjoy that are going to stick around. And now, the girls that are like my best friends always say, like, it's my best quality is, the ability to be funny and have fun and make things lighthearted, and not, I can take things seriously whenever I need to. It's not about that, but some stuff just does not need to be that serious, and people need to up. And that's my legacy, is showing other women how good it gets to be, and you are allowed to have fun. And so 8-year-old me really needed to be told to just stay weird and do not suppress who you are for anybody.
Fucking oath. Absolutely. That got me a little bit emotional as well, like you talking about your daughter as well. I think in this day and age, it's super, super important to be authentic and to be true to you and not try to minimize yourself for fucking anyone, because at the end of the day, when we're all, dead and gone, no one's going to remember how much you were exactly like everybody else.
Yeah. And I don't want to end of my days and be like, oh, I wish I had have, given more of myself. I want to get to the end of my days with, stories with scars and scratches and bruises and, with euphoria in my bones and, with just joy that I'm like,
I lived. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why that just made me really emotional. Holy shit.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I think there's so many of us, and I'm sitting here talking to like the beautiful woman with the red hair and the eye makeup and the nose rings, and like I can see that like you have probably spent your whole life just dying to be all that you are. And it's like, whether it's your sexuality, your job choices, all these things, it's like, stay fucking weird. Like, just the world needs more of what you've got. And it's like, look how many people out there just adore you. Like, you have this, you know, beautiful following out there that are looking at you going like, wow, she's cool, you know, and the world needs more of what you've got. And it's like, the more we suppress that, the more we're robbing people of the opportunity to see all of that and enjoy all of that and learn from that. And yeah, I don't know, I hate that people feel like they can't be all that they are. And I think more little girls needed to hear that back when we were kids.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Well,
Bless.
Carly, thank you so much. I could sit and listen to you talk for hours on end, and I can't wait for the opportunity when I move to be able to meet you in person and hang out and just do cool shit together, because yeah, I just can't wait. You're amazing. And thank you so much again for saying yes to being on my podcast. I really, really appreciate it a lot.
No, thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, like, I don't know, your followers are probably like a different crowd to, you know, to the type of person I am. But I always just say to people, like, not everything I say has to land, and not everything I say has to be taken for gospel, and you don't have to hold on to everything. Just take what you need and leave the rest. And if that's just one thing that I've said or talked about today that you're like, oh yeah, then that's all I need. I just need people to walk away going, yep, that one thing, yeah, that's what I'm going to take, change or apply or listen to or hold on to. You know, not everything has to land. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak to your people today. I do really appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. Well, guys, if you haven't already, please make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button, so that I can continue on with this little passion project of mine. And yeah, thank you all so much for tuning into our episode, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.